Hi, and welcome to another episode of Black Money Matters. I'm Karen Weaver, and hey, Jamecka.
Hi, I'm Jamecka Patrick.
And we are so happy to be here.
We are.
At Black Money Matters. Yes. You know what? We've been doing this a little while now.
This is our 6th episode.
Oh, wow. Okay. 6.
Yes, 6.
That's good.
That is good.
And we did something a little bit different the last time, because I think you put something up on our page, right?
Yes. So what we put on our page was an article that we are going to discuss today, and hopefully everybody had a chance to look at the article, review
and it's
the
a quick
article.
read. It's a quick read.
But it's a lot of good information.
Well, you know, and what I like about it, well, let me say, the name of it is Local Black Entrepreneurs Say They Still Face Uphill Battles.
Right.
And what is it? It's National Black Business Month.
It is.
Right now, August is.
August is National Black Business Month.
Okay.
So that's interesting that, you know, we're talking about black businesses, we're celebrating black businesses, and we're finding that even though we're celebrating and talking about black businesses,
there are still uphill battles. And you know what? And I started reading this article, and it was funny because so much of what I read, we talked about. You know, we were talking about this. Really, some of this came through on every single show that we've had. We have been talking about this, and it let me know, well, it just reinforced the reason that we're here.
It did. Because, I mean, if we do a quick review of our episodes, the first episode, there was
it started like this. It was the two of us.
Just like this. And we talked about some of these things and some of the things that we were seeing. We were able to see, you know, based on our own experiences and our research, and things that we've heard, we just know,
right,
as far as the difficulties that black businesses face.
Right.
And then our next episode, because our first episode was really cool because we got to talk about some history.
Right, we talked about history and really laying a foundation for the show, because we said we're going to have our foundation be economics, because we knew it crossed so many things. Whether we were talking about business,
health,
education, you know, access to loans, and you know, things through everything. But history, yeah, that's what we did the second time.
And so we just talked about it some in our first show, and then our second show we had a couple guests.
Right.
And we got a little more history. We talked about St. John Street in Flint, Michigan, right here in Flint, Michigan. We talked about, you know, Black Wall Street,
Seneca Park,
and so many of those things in those areas in which we saw black businesses
thrive, and we saw turnover in our community during those times.
We saw that black dollar turning over up to 20 times, and now we know that that's 0 to 1 time.
Right.
That the black dollar turns over in the black community.
Right.
And so, you know, we also talked about putting together a list of black businesses, and we are still going to put that information up.
I know Dewan is working on that.
Yep, he is, and so we're going to put that information up.
So wait a minute, you just brought that up. If somebody has a black business, a local one, isn't it? Local black businesses.
Local black business.
And they haven't gotten the information, can they email us?
They can. So if you have a local black business, and you want your information placed in this black business directory that
email us.
Going to be specific to Flint and Genesee County, email us. You can email us at blackmoneymatters2@gmail.com. So that's blackmoneymatters, the number 2, at gmail.com. And we'll make sure to pass your
information. We'll get that information
to Dewan Robinson and the people who are putting that directory together.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and it's something that it fills a gap and a need in our community.
It does, because we even talked about how on the blackout
day,
we
had trouble locating different businesses because we had something going on.
Right, so it would have been cool to be able to
have the directory.
Say, this is the
sort of like the Green Book.
Sort of like the Green Book.
Have the directory to say, where do we go?
I need this, and this is the number. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And then after that, I think we had Mr. Dr. Bill Picard.
Yes.
And that was, and I'm halfway through I'm halfway through the Millionaire Moves, and you see, look, I've been highlighting.
Yes.
Don't you tell my joke about highlighting either. But I've been highlighting, and I've been putting tabs in different parts of the book. So.
And you bought me a copy.
I know.
And so,
Millionaire Moves. I want people to see Millionaire Moves because it's a good one. It's a good one. And at some point after we finish, I think we need to come back and talk about that.
We do.
We need to come back and talk about that.
And kind of share a little bit of that information. But people should buy the book.
Right.
You should buy the book.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a good read.
It's a good read, and it's an easy read. And it's informative, and it's entertaining.
And we're talking about black money.
That's right. So, what did we do? Oh, now you know we can't forget the Queen.
Not forget the Queen.
Queen Tyra.
So our next show, it was our first location shoot.
Right here in Flint.
Right.
And we were over there in the 3rd Ward.
Right.
Across from Joy Tabernacle because they have that stage. And that was nice.
It was.
That was nice.
It was real nice.
I had my little purse that I had.
Yes, that you had purchased.
That's right, from a black company, an African company actually.
And it was authentic.
That's right. Yeah, Tyra pointed that out.
She did.
She pointed that out.
And so that was good because we were able to talk about her being a black woman and starting a media business.
Right.
And breaking into that business and some of those obstles that she
and
faced.
Why she did it. Why she
what
did it.
inspired her to do it. And so that was fun.
It was. We had a lot of fun. And the behind the scenes with her was fun, and we featured that Black Mama Vodka.
We did.
That's
we did
by
another black company.
Exactly, a young African American woman that started this company, and we did that. We had Papa Jarrett behind the scenes.
We did have Papa Jarrett behind the scenes talking about St. John Street and our history, and you know how we did banking, because banking hasn't always been available to us.
And you know what?
In a lot of ways.
And there is in this, I'm going back to this book. Look, in this book, he talked about some of that information. In fact, I tagged it on page 34, where he talked about the number man, and he talked about the importance and the significance that he played in the African American community, and gave some examples. He even gave an example of somebody that had been a dentist and had gone to school and was trying to start his own practice and didn't have the finances because he'd been through school to start it. And who had helped him was the numbers man.
And you know what's funny about that is, and what I'm finding since we've been doing this show, is there are common themes throughout the show. Guests that, you know, I don't know, maybe they know each other, maybe they don't, but they don't know necessarily what the other guests have talked about on the show, and you still see those common themes.
Right.
And that is, you know, the number man and people in the black communities who've had to help other people because banks wouldn't loan money, and that shows our creativity.
Right. And and there was another common theme that got talked about, was the uprooting of Black Wall Street, St. John Place, Seneca Park, and it goes on and on and on. In fact, when I was coming over here, they were talking about the riots that had taken place in Watts, and how it took, you know, years and years before some of those businesses, like a grocery store, got replaced, and some of the businesses never got replaced. And so when they came in and disrupted, you know, our communities, that's been a common thread among all of these.
Yeah. And it has been, and you hear about that. And so I think that really goes to show the importance of the show, because we're talking about, you know, rebuilding wealth in our communities and keeping that money.
I'll tell you, we've had people email us too and tell us that they really enjoyed the show. I think somebody last week was talking about investment, and one of the emails we got talked about how that was just what they needed to hear, and how they learned so much from that show, and you know, wanted some more information. And I think you talked to somebody personally.
I was going to say, and speaking of last week our guest was Antoine Little, and he talked about saving for retirement, 401ks, investments, you know, stocks,
and what you could do at every age. And you know, no matter where you are, there's something you can do. And I just think that's really important. And what were you going to say?
I had a young person. And she's 21.
Oh, she's 21?
21.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and so she saw that episode, and she said to me, you know, I learned so much. And when people talk about 401ks.
No, I'm not interrupting, but you know what you make me think? You said she's 21.
21.
And she learned so much. The person that emailed us was in her 60s.
See?
And she said, I learned so much.
So that's good, because that means that, you know, everybody is learning something.
Exactly.
And you know, that's one of the, like you said, that's one of the things he talked about, is that you can, when you're investing, you can invest, you know, depending on your age and when you want to retire and things like that, you can invest, you know, in different markets. And she talked about how, you know, people may investing sound, you know, boring, and, you know, maybe sometimes.
He was really entertaining, and he was excited and passionate about what he does.
Yeah, and she said that
and it showed.
Listening to him, it piqued her interest, and so now she knows.
And I'm glad to hear that we had two different, you know, ages, two very different ages.
Very different ages.
Not like it was a 20 and a 30, which is different ages, but it wasn't even that.
Right.
You know, these were opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right.
And they both thought they had gotten something that was very useful to them, and said they wanted more.
Absolutely. And
that's why we're here, because we're going to give them more. We're going to give them more. And so I was glad that we put this article up, because I mean, I read this, and I'm looking at it, and it was just talking about, you know, as we celebrate National Black Business Month. Now, this article came out of California, I believe, Pasadena. But they were talking about black business owners have not flourished due to a number of unresolved issues, including lack of support from us, from each other.
And I think it's important to point out that this article was written this month. It was written
it's not an old article.
Not an old article. So we can't say, well, yeah, but
no, not at
all.
all.
Made some advances, because this is brand new.
August 6, 2020 at 12:25 p.m. 12:25. So this is like in real time.
Yeah, hot off the press.
And you know, they were talking about black business owners account for 10% of U.S. businesses, and roughly a third of minority-owned businesses. But when they talked about the challenges, they said one of the challenges was getting blacks to support black businesses, because we will take our business elsewhere, but elsewhere doesn't come to us. Elsewhere doesn't come to us. But we'll go elsewhere. And that goes back to what you were just talking about as far as the turnover or lack thereof in the black community. Because I remember Threlkill talking about the turnover, and then all of a sudden we had Dr. Picard come, and he talked about the turnover, and now we're saying we can't get turnover. And we don't support each other. Remember I was saying, I said, we're one of our worst enemies.
Tyra talked about that too.
Because we'll say, well, you know how we are, we need to go here and we need to go there. And sometimes the barriers that happen, it's because we are minority. And we don't have the same kind of access, so it makes it more difficult. So I appreciated when Bill Picard said, yeah, you might pay 50 cents more going to the black store, but you need to do that because it's going to turn over in your community and get us to the point where we can be on an equal playing field. But that was the first thing that I noticed, the inability to maintain black customers.
And you know what? I think it's important to point out that when we say things like, you know, I'm not going to, you know, we like to charge more. No, we don't
like to. We have to pay more to get those products and our supplies. Because
of the barriers, we can't buy in the same amount quantity. So we don't get those same discounts.
Exactly.
And not to mention, we don't always have those same resources available.
That's right.
So I don't have, you know, that extra money just to store in a storehouse so that I can charge you less. So it's important that we recognize that and realize
and support our own.
And support. And it's really frustrating, because when you work in corporate America, and when I say corporate America, I mean in corporate America or government or wherever, we are held to such a higher standard. And we have to outperform
all the time. Nice.
All of the time. But then when we open our own businesses, we don't support each other.
Right.
And we
wonder why we go out of business.
Right. And so if you think about it, you know, if we own our stores in our communities, that's who's hiring your kids after school.
And I was talking with somebody earlier, and they were telling me about their friend who had started a business and was doing fine. But then, you know, as far as new businesses go, but then here comes COVID, and they weren't able to maintain, and so now they've shut down. And so you've got that on top of already facing these different obstacles and having these challenges, and now they're out of business.
And that's another issue when we say lack of resources, because I personally know Black women who have had and were running successful businesses, some of them for years. And then COVID hit.
Right.
And then, you know, you start hearing all of these things about this access to these funds and those funds. And these women weren't able to access
I was going to say it, right.
And nobody's telling them why.
Right.
They don't even have a reason. You know? And
stuff, or you'll be pending. You're in that pending queue, and you've never come out. Every time you go and check, it's pending. Well, pending what?
Pending what? Right.
Pending what?
Right. And so now, you know, I know one in particular, she's looking for a job, but guess what? Nobody's hiring.
Nobody's hiring.
Because of COVID. Nobody's hiring in her field. So it's very difficult when you don't have access to the same level of resources. And that's one of the things that the article talked about. So while we should go to the Black-owned businesses and shop there, it's not enough. We have to make sure that people have access to resources, advice, you know.
Well, there was something else in this article too, and I don't know, it stood out to me because it did, because they were talking about some company, and it was an African-American company. They were committed to doing the right thing. They had one of the largest construction crews of African-Americans. They had an African-American leasing agent, an insurance company, an African-American businesses in the center, and they said they were in control and mindful of it. They had an African-American lending institution that was part of it. And I don't want to say who had what was coming, but it was an African-American. And they said it was like the stars had aligned and everything was in the right place to make these things happen. I don't know, does that remind you of anything?
It does.
It reminds me of something. What?
You know what it reminds me of?
Yeah, let me see. See if it reminds you of what it reminds me.
It reminds me of Once Upon a Time in the city of Flint. And we had our first Black mayor, Dr. Karen Weaver. Female.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Our first female mayor, you're right. Dr. Karen Weaver. And, you know, we
made things, we leveled the playing field.
Right. And
when it came to getting people working.
Right, getting people working in the community, putting people in position qualified. Let me say
qualified.
Qualified.
And even when they were talking about construction companies and all of that kind of thing, and making sure that while we weren't involved in how things got assigned, but you know, sometimes, and I've had this conversation with a lot of Black mayors where they've talked about the difficulty in African Americans being able to get contracts from the city because they put so many things in place, so many hurdles in place, and things that don't even make sense.
Don't even make sense.
They'll say, well, you know, you need a crane for this job.
But
okay, but I'm digging a hole. I don't
right.
need a crane for that. Or, you know, the bonding, all of these things.
Or you have to own it. You can't lease it. But
why not? It shouldn't matter how if I have the equipment,
access to it,
right? It doesn't matter,
right?
So and that was how no bid contracts just started getting in place. Well, these are the only two companies that have everything. We don't need to go through the process of bidding because it's these two.
And it's almost like somebody looked and said, okay, we know that these two have it, and we know that these other companies, these Black companies, don't have it. So let's write all of these extra things.
Specs that don't make sense. That don't make sense. And it was a nice thing to see. And so when I was reading this,
it was an exciting time. You saw black people working, black businesses.
And you also saw people that were given a second chance.
Yes, you did. You absolutely did. It was really exciting. You saw, black women leading the city, and it was really exciting.
We're hoping to see more of black women doing things.
We are truly hoping to see more.
But it was interesting because they also talked about urban renewal. And what that did to our communities, and that's when I thought, well, we talked about that with St. John, we talked about that with Black Wall Street. I mean, with just
Seneca
all of
Village,
these
all
things,
of those things.
where under the
Urban
guise
renewal
of
don't
urban,
mean-
right? It means something.
It
It's
doesn't
code.
mean what they try to make you think it.
Right.
Urban renewal, and
Sounds good.
Sounds real good.
It sounds good.
Cute words. But really, what it
but
means
code
is,
words. They're code words for you better watch out.
You better watch out. You better watch out. 'Cause,
Yeah.
we're gonna come in here and renew you right on out of your home.
Dang.
And right on out of your business.
Right, and those are the conversations that I know we need to be having. I know every time we pick up these cups, we're smiling.
And we're smiling because our cups, were made by
Some peach.
Look at us.
I know.
We talked about it last week.
About it last week.
But, she's black, she's young, she's right here in Flint, and she is, and so we put our information out there, and we're hoping to have her on our show so she can really
That
tell
would be
us
nice.
everything that she's doing.
And, we talked about we want to highlight businesses, and that's something that I'm looking forward to going out on location some more. To highlight some of the businesses and really talk about some of the challenges that they've had, some of the successes, and what would they say to other people starting a business.
Yep. What would they say? So that's going to be fun, going out on location. So Black Money Matters, highlighting black businesses that matter, going out on location, seeing the services that they offer.
And supporting each other.
Supporting each other
And lifting each other up. And especially, we should be doing this. I know last time I said something about, just like McDonald's said, Black History Month is really 365. We should be highlighting and celebrating black businesses all of the time. This is August and it's National Black Business Month, but it should be something that we are intentional about all year long.
And even the way that we celebrate, because we know it's Black Business Month, but you don't even hear a lot about Black business month.
Look, if I hadn't gotten this article and saw that it said something about National Black Business Month, I wouldn't have even known it.
You know what that reminds me of? Something I heard you say when you were
What did I say?
when you were talking about, they want to give us a day or give us a month.
Right.
And,
we're
expect us to be happy
and shut up about everything else.
So you give us Black Business Month.
Right, and then you don't promote it.
Right.
I haven't seen anything.
I haven't either.
I haven't seen anything. So it's National Black Business Month, people. Let's celebrate Black business and be intentional and do it all year long, because we're going to help them do it.
Right.
We're going to help them do it. And not only are we going to help them talk about black businesses and entrepreneurship, we're going to be looking at some other things too, because there's a lot going on. We're still in a pandemic.
We are.
We're still in a pandemic.
I told somebody the other day, Flint is in a triple pandemic.
Right.
We have COVID, the water crisis, and this crime pandemic we found ourselves in. So we're in a triple pandemic around here. That's what I call it.
It is. It's a scary time.
It is.
And so that's something else that I know we're going to talk about, is what's going on, because one of the things we also know is that health outcomes are tied to your socioeconomic status, and that's why we said that we were going to make economics the foundation of this, because it's tied to all of those things.
Absolutely.
So I know we'll be talking about, health issues, concerns, access to different things. I know we'll be talking about education, probably. Because and you know, that's interesting too, as we're in a pandemic and we talk about education, and as they look more at doing things at home in these virtual classrooms, and do we have the technology and the computers and the internet and everything you need to be able to do that.
And you know what, that is real important. Broadband access, internet access is important.
And there's a digital divide.
Right, there is. I mean, I know my internet is not good.
Okay, and we won't say what that is, so.
We won't, but I'm saying, you know,
right.
If you're at home and you're trying to teach your kid and the stuff is kicking you off and all of that,
right.
You know, that's an issue.
That's a problem.
Especially because your kid is going to be expected to perform at the same level as the other kids. So,
or if what happens if you're, well, maybe, I don't know if the schools are providing computers, but what happens if, oh, something's wrong with my computer, something's wrong with my printer. I mean, there's a lot to think about there, and that digital divide doesn't help.
It does not help.
And so I think we'll be talking about some of those kinds of things as well. I want people to, you know, we have gotten some people to send us information in to say things they want us to talk about.
And so for everybody out there listening, we are open. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear about what topics you want us to talk about. So again, you can email us at blackmoneymatters2@gmail.com.
And that's the number 2.
The number 2.
The number 2.
And another thing that we want.
What's that?
We want, so as we go on our tour of black businesses that matter, we would love to hear from people in the audience to tell us what black businesses do you want to see us go to.
Right.
Go to location.
Or if you're a business owner.
Or if you're a business owner, we would love to come to you, talk about what you're doing, what inspired you, what difficulties do you face, what keeps you going, you know, what resources do you need to advance your business.
And those that have been successful, you know, what did they do, and what advice do they have for young people? And I don't mean just young people age-wise. I mean because people my age, people younger than me, older than me, will start a business.
Absolutely.
You'll find out. I mean, just like you may see some older women that say, "Shoot, I know how to sew. I'm gonna start making some cloth masks for people," and all of a sudden they're making things and selling things. What do you tell people at all ages? So I'm talking about young in business. Whether you're young in age or young in business, what would you tell us?
I mean, the different things, like, you know, it'd be interesting to know how people start a business while working a 9 to 5. You know, it'd be interesting to know if anyone started a business after they retired. Like you said, some people decide to
or like I did when I left Mott. I was never thinking I was going to start a business. I was trying to sell some furniture, get rid of some things, and the next thing I know, I'm into natural products. And it was something that just happened. But if someone asked me, you know, how had I planned for that, I hadn't. But then I started doing research. But you know what? Okay, I'm going back to this because one of the quotes, which one? He put something in here, page 93, and I just thought it was really interesting because what he said in here is, black folks aren't broke, but traditionally some of us have made bad choices. And he said, I'd like to remind you once again that wealthy people teach their children to acquire. Middle income people teach their children to sell, and poor people teach their children to consume. And it's time to break this cycle and be the role model, the family member who is successful in securing seed capital for a venture. And I just thought, when I read that, I was like, ooh.
That's deep.
Yeah.
But you know, it goes to last week. Remember, he said we need to celebrate saving.
Right.
We celebrate when we spend. You know, if we get a new car, we celebrate.
So how's your saving coming in that? Because we said there are different ways you can save.
You can save. You can save. You can do.
Because I said I had that big old the $5 challenge, or even something more substantial. But how is your challenge coming?
My $5.
Yeah.
I think I'm winning. I'm competing with my sons, and I'm pretty sure I'm winning.
One daughter is still ahead, But she had a head start.
Yeah.
Because like I said, that's what made me start doing it. And I think that's, you know, Adrian and I said, oh, we're going to do that.
And you know, I guess if I have to just tell it, I probably had a head start too.
Okay. But I'm going to catch up. Now, in the coin game, I'm ahead. But even something we talked about, like investing and buying stock. You know, I mean, I have an app on my phone where I'm looking at, oh, wow, look at this. And it's gotten so easy to be able to do some of those things that it keeps you engaged.
For everything else, you know.
Right.
Might as well learn how to make some money, you know, invest in, you know, watch your investments grow or whatever the case is.
Right.
So, yeah, and celebrate that.
Right.
Celebrate when you
saving.
save that
I like
first
that.
$100, that first $1,000. That's a big deal, you know, because it adds up. I tell you what, when bills come, those dollars add up.
Right.
So it adds up when you save, and it is. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't celebrate when somebody is able to purchase a car or a home. That's huge.
That is huge.
And we should celebrate
But you saved for those things.
You saved for those things.
And I just liked what we talked about as far as paying yourself. So if you like Nike, if you like Puma, if you like Adidas, you know, whatever it is, whatever the brand
whatever you're into,
buy some stock in it.
Buy some stock. So when you go out and buy a pair of Nikes,
right,
you're paying yourself.
Exactly.
When everybody's standing in line around the corner,
you're clapping. You're like, yeah, stand in that line
because you're
helping me.
Right. You know, where do you shop? What
exactly? What airline do you fly?
What airline?
You know, all of those kinds of things. Or get into something new. Get into something new.
Yeah.
But now we got an email, so we're going to have to start doing this. Because we got an email from someone and they said, I want you all to do a business tip of the week or something like that. So I don't know, will it be a business tip? It could be, if we're talking about health, it might be a health tip. If we're, I mean, but to give
tip
some,
of the week.
Right.
Black Money Matters tip of the week.
The tip of the week.
Yes.
So that's something we should.
That is something that we should do. That is something
right.
We should do.
So I like the suggestions.
I do.
That people are coming up with for us, and I want some more.
I do too.
I want some more.
I'm really interested in hearing what businesses people are going to send us to. You know, I like field trips. I was that kid. Love field trips. Love learning.
So you want to be out. You don't want to be sitting here.
Well, you know, you know, I'm a social worker. I want to be with people.
I do too.
I want to be out with the people, and you know, so I do want to go out.
I want to go out.
And see what's going on out there.
I want to, right. And I also think it's important that we not limit ourselves to just here. We want to go out and see people in some other places to bring some other ideas and suggestions and advice to people.
Right, because we love Flint.
Right.
But Black Money Matters is about us as a nationwide or worldwide community.
Right, what we can do.
So where can we go? Who can we talk to? You know, there may be somebody in New York that may be able to give us some good information that everybody in our viewing audience would.
And then I was talking to somebody, and I'm not going to talk about it too much because I don't want to say who it is because I haven't talked to them yet. But I mean, we have some people from Flint that are in other places that are doing some business.
We do.
And to have them say, you know, what inspired them and how they did this, and just talk about their business, because some of them, they're available, you know, online to order some things. So I used something that somebody from Flint made, and I can't remember where he is, but he's a young man. And I said, we might want to Zoom him in.
Right.
And have him talk about, you know, what he did, because, you know, actually it was so funny. Well, he's in the food industry, let me say that. But I remember when I was running for mayor, and he was telling me, you know, what wasn't available here, and, you know, what his passion was. And I thought, wow, you know, he's right. And, you know, now, we have the culinary art school now, but that wasn't here then. And so he's someplace else now doing his thing. and I was using some of his products. And I thought it'd be nice to have him, you know, come in and talk about, you know, what he did and what he's doing and how it's going and that kind of thing, so we could stay in touch with some of our Flint people who are doing businesses in other parts of not just the state but the country.
But the country, right, right.
In other parts of the country. So that was something I was thinking about.
And I can't wait, like,
for what?
To go out and to Zoom people in, but also to go out.
I know.
And it's been interesting because young people have been saying, you know, this business is opening and that, and you know, telling us. So we would love to continue to get that information. And I'm excited to see people, you know, pursue their passion.
Right.
You know, that's always exciting.
And it seems like a lot of it's been happening right now. I mean, because it's, well, with the way things have been, you've had time to really think about it and focus and say, okay, now what do I do? What do I do? And start doing it. I mean, well, like we did with this. And you never know where a good idea is going to come from.
Right.
Because this came as a result of, we're sitting around talking about coronavirus and how are we 12 or 13% of the population and 40% of the deaths? That makes no sense. And what do we need to be talking about?
And what's the root issue? And it all boiled down to economics. It all boiled down to lack of resources.
Right.
And then we started talking about, but we used to have this and that, and what happened to those
and what
places?
happened to it?
And we started talking about how intentional those places were dismantled.
But before the dismantling, how intentional they were on supporting and working together. And that's what we've got to get to that. You know, some places have figured it out in some businesses, and I think you see it more maybe in some larger cities. I don't know. I might be confused, but
you don't. The thing is, you don't see it enough.
Right. I mean, like I said, when I read this and the guy was saying how the stars were aligned for all of these things to happen. That doesn't happen very often.
That doesn't happen very often. But when it does, it's intentionally broken apart.
Right.
You know, and when it does
sometimes
happen.
Okay, go ahead. No, you know, I was going to say, and sometimes they use us to break us apart.
Do.
I had to say that.
Yeah, it's true.
I had to say that.
It's unfortunate. It is unfortunate.
And so that'll be our conversation sometimes.
It will. It will. Because we have to.
How come you don't?
We can't truly talk about Black Money Matters.
Right.
We can't truly talk about building wealth if we don't. If we're afraid.
I'm not going to go and buy clothes from her, from the black lady, but I'll go over to that store and buy them. You know, I'm not going to go to that black doctor, but I'm going to go to this one. I'm not, you know, or I'm going to go to them when I have Medicaid or no insurance, but as soon as I get something, I'm going to the other one. And I see that firsthand.
Yes. And and we have to be able to address those tough topics. You know, we have to be able to say, look, y'all.
Right.
You know,
it's time out for that.
Yes.
It is time out.
Yes, because this is our time. We can't say Black Lives Matter without recognizing that Black money matters.
Right.
You know, we talk about the power of the
because
dollar.
that's why there are all these disparities. Because of the lack of. I was reading something else, and I didn't bring that article, but it was one about home ownership, and just talking about how, I mean, we don't own much, and if you don't own a home, you know what that cuts you out of, and the access you don't have to lines of credit, and it just widens the wealth gap. It widens the wealth gap. I think that's something we really need to talk about, because that housing and not having a bank account, because I was reading something else where it said that we are, and I can't remember, I don't think I wrote it down in here. I'm going to bring it. But they were talking about us being unbanked or underbanked.
Yeah, we had a conversation about that. Either we don't have bank accounts or we don't use the bank accounts. We're still going to check cash and paying all the fees.
Exactly. And saying how, you know, we end up spending, I forget over how many years, $40,000 because of fees. At banking, insufficient funds, those kinds of things. and it leads to the housing. And so that's something that we need to talk about.
We do. We need to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to understand credit.
Right.
What does it mean? What impacts? What's the negative impact? What's the positive impact?
We're going to talk about that. Not next week or the week after. Maybe the third week. I don't know.
But soon.
Right. Because you remember that stuff I was showing you? And that's what they were talking about. And if you're a renter, how you can be you pay faithfully on time.
20 years.
And it doesn't help you when it comes to your credit and building credit and your credit score. And there's somebody that's fixing that, that's addressing that.
And that's good.
So we're going to talk about that too.
Yeah, you pay your rent, you're paying
your utilities, you're paying everything on time. That ought to mean something.
It ought to mean something. You ought to be able to use that to help you.
It's a record. It's a record. And they were also talking about when it came to housing, you know, how we may not get that mortgage, but we can pay on land contract. But when you do that, you still don't have the title. When you buy the home, you get the title, and that gives you access.
That's a resource.
Right.
That's, you know, you're paying into that equity.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't get it on land contract until it's completed.
So you pay 5-10 years before you can even, you know, get something to help you be able to build wealth for you and your children.
And it was interesting that they were also talking about how if you're late for something, you may pay this reoccurring monthly bill late twice a year, late 3 times a year. That's held against you. But I was on time 9 times.
Right. I don't get credit for that.
You get no credit for on time. But as soon as it's late, you have a strike. You have a strike against you. So it's a lot.
And they keep it on
that. Okay, so how come we don't know this information?
You know, again, access to information. Knowledge is power. And so sometimes we're kept out of the know intentionally. So that's why we don't know a lot of this information.
And you know, well, you and I were talking about it. I said sometimes you'll get something, you're like, oh, you're invited to learn about, and you look at who's putting it on and who's going to be there, and you're like,
located.
All right, I'm not going there, and they know you're not going to come there, and they're counting on you not to show up. You know, there are some of us that'll say, oh, I'll be there.
I will be there.
Because even if I wasn't invited, I'm going to crash the party. But a lot of us aren't that way.
Right.
And so it's that access to this information.
Access and access to information. I mean, look at how. Let's talk about college, for instance. So if I don't have the information to get if I don't have the information to obtain the knowledge to get the wealth, then when my kids go to college, they have to borrow money, and when they finish college, they're behind.
We don't even want to talk about student loans.
But the student loan crisis.
Right, and it is.
It's a crisis, but you know what I find funny? It just became a crisis, so to speak. You know why?
Why? Because other people can't pay their student loans?
Because other people can't pay their student loans. And that's why we've been having student loan debt forever.
Forever.
So, you know, but when you look at that, you know, and I'm happy that the student loan debt is being highlighted.
I know it.
You know
it needs to be.
Because why is it that they'll give me $200,000 to get a degree, but won't give me $50,000 to start a business?
Same reason they won't let you get some money to buy a house.
But I can go get a car.
But you can go get a car.
You rolling.
You can do
Some
that.
Some of these cars cost more than a house.
Right.
So,
and those are the things we need to look at, and we need to be questioning. We need to question those. And it's like you said, we're in this era of Black Lives Matter, and so it's a great time to highlight some of these other things.
Right.
Because it started as a result of the criminal justice or injustices
that
were going on. But it's like you said, it spills over into everything else. So we've got to not only be focused on what's happening in the criminal justice system, but in, you know, the economic system, in the health system, in the education system. I mean, elections are coming up, and there's going to be school board elections. People need to pay attention to who has their children's best interests.
Right.
You know, pay attention to those things and be actively engaged. and have those kinds of conversations. But it spills over into all these other areas. And we need to be mindful that it's about the dollar.
It's always about the dollar.
It's about the dollar.
And so I'm going to go back to our first show.
First one, just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
Okay.
You said they asking what we want.
We want the same thing you want.
Exactly. And look how it plays out. So if I don't have money to be able to buy a house where I want, put my kids in schools that I want, if I don't have the economic power to be able to spend my dollar or show you that I'm going to spend my dollar in an environment that's friendly toward me, you know what I mean? I need to spend my dollar in my community. You know, it ties together. My political power, all of that.
It all ties together. And you were making me think, sometimes we can't spend our dollar with us because we aren't one of the providers of that merchandise, that talent, that skill, whatever it is. Whatever it is. I mean, we were talking about architect firms. Do we have a black one here in the city of Flint or even Genesee County? I'm not sure. I knew Charles Williams, but that was a long time ago. I was a kid. Right. And he was an architect and had his own company. But do we have those things? We talked about how there used to be Metro Chamber of Commerce, and that was a black chamber of commerce.
And why don't we have that anymore?
Because
in a city like that,
it's like
that.
Yeah, we should. We did. But it just like the numbers, just like marijuana, just like the business, it gets taken. Well, let's all merge. Let's be one. Now it's legal, so you can't afford to do it because all of those things. You can't afford the licenses.
I mean?
Let's just come play Mega now, and all of that. But that's what happens.
That's what happens. That's what happens. And we see that time and time again. But we should be able to have access to our own businesses. Like we talked about grocery stores and how
we talked about gas
stations. The big one.
Oh man, I meant to bring something. I'm gonna have to show you. I'll get it when I go home.
Okay.
And show you.
I'm gonna bring it over to it.
But we should.
Yeah, bank. With the big one is banks.
We keep talking about that.
We keep talking about
banks.
And you know what? We want to shop black because on Blackout Day they had so many people trying to open accounts at that.
I was going to say there's one in Detroit.
Yeah, and they had so many people they couldn't even handle the volume.
They couldn't even handle it. What a good problem.
What a good problem to have. But you know what it shows? That
there's a need.
There's a need
for that.
For black-owned banks.
And there's a need for a lot of things that we don't own. That we should do, that we should be doing.
We should.
There's a need for a lot of jobs and fields that we should be in. We talked about what we found out as far as all these careers in water, what's going on around infrastructure. There's a need for us to fill these positions. So is there any late breaking news? Oh! I'm sorry.
We are so sorry. We just got some information from
Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Is the VP. Girl.
Okay. Yeah,
oh man.
But yes.
Wow.
So
we were
we were.
I can't believe
so
it. So we are. What I mean. What are we? I've lost my train of thought.
So we know that when you see this,
it's old news.
It's old
but
news.
It's new right now.
It's late breaking right now. So we've been talking about political power.
I know
and
it.
How we need to be. How we need to be represented at.
And when we are represented, don't bash us.
Don't
support us.
Support us.
Support black women support black women.
Let me say this,
please,
because I'm going to digress for just a moment. One of the things that broke my heart, honestly, is because I grew up knowing that you supported black women, you supported black people, because that's who raised us, that's who taught us, that's who, you know what I mean, who taught us integrity. And so I went to work for you. I met you during my final interview. Right? And so I started working. That's a whole nother story.
Okay, what?
But I started working for you, and like your level of integrity, your love for Flint. I was happy because I love Flint, and I know that I have integrity. And so watching you run the city and be bashed at the same time broke my heart, because I knew that what they were saying wasn't true, number one. And number two, we should support black women, especially when you step out there in politics.
Yeah.
Politics has been, I mean, I'm just going to be honest, politics has been a white man's game since the beginning of.
You know what? Okay, just let it flow, huh? Because you've been pent
been
up, and you have been waiting to say this.
So
I mean,
so to hear, so I was excited.
My phone is lighting up.
And to hear right now that Kamala,
you know, and people said, well, which one do you want? I said, I want any of them,
right,
because they're all qualified.
Right.
We have had some bad black women on that list that are qualified, and that's what I said. And they've been showing up and showing out and handling their business, and stop acting like we're supposed to be perfect.
Right.
You know, everybody has some baggage.
Right.
And if you don't believe, and if you don't, then you haven't lived long enough.
Right.
Everybody has some baggage, but don't hit them with the baggage. Support them. Right. Support them in that role. Do you know how difficult that's going to be? They're going to start talking about her and what she did and what she didn't do. We need to stand behind this black woman.
Yep.
And I'm just excited. We're going to do a show.
But let me say this. I want somebody who lives life.
Look,
if you lived in a bubble, I don't think you can represent me well, because I don't live in a bubble.
Right.
I've made mistakes. So I want somebody
and we
who
all
understands.
have, and we're still going to.
Right.
Because she's not going to get in there and do everything right. But it doesn't mean we're going to attack her.
Right.
I can't. You know what? This makes me want to work extra hard for the get out the vote. I can't wait.
Because our political power equals our economic power. Our vote matters. Our voices matter. Our business matters.
And that's all we've been saying. We're going to have to do something with some women.
We are.
Man,
I'm
excited.
So super
I know
excited.
I know it. It did. I lost my train of thought. I'm thinking, wait a minute.
What were we talking about?
I don't even know. I saw this.
Yes.
I saw someone walk into the studio and do this, and I'm like, was there an announcement?
And we've been waiting.
We've been waiting and waiting. I know it. I know it.
And you know what? Let me give a shout out to black women and black men who said we expect this. We expect to be represented.
We expect to be represented. When people say, well, yeah, if we put a black woman in, we may not win, blah, blah, blah. If we stood together, we will.
Absolutely.
If we stay together.
Absolutely.
And
everybody takes somebody.
Exactly.
Everybody.
Wow.
You know, people, I've been watching CNN, MSN.
We can't even talk. We can't even talk. I mean, this is.
But we've been watching this, and we've been and you've done some interviews, and our friend Dr. Pugh has done some interviews,
and some of our other black women, very involved people have. You did one yourself.
Oh yeah.
So now you did
one. We've all been doing some interviews.
You've done one yourself too.
Absolutely. And we've been saying it's been. You know, social media has been lighting up.
Right. We've been saying we can do this.
We've been saying we expect.
And one of them should. They asked me which one. Yeah, which one do you like? I like them all. Pick one of them. That's a good problem.
You know what? Because black women are educated.
Right.
We are experienced.
That's right.
We know how to make it happen.
How to make it happen, because we had to make it happen.
Because we had
to make it
happen.
And
it's time out for expecting us to do all the work in the background.
Right. I said, you know, we can clean the house, we can make the bed, we can prepare the meal, but then we can't sit at the table. Right. We can't sit at the table and have the meal.
Right.
You know, excuse me. I said, it's time. I said, we've done all the grunt work.
Yeah.
But we don't get the reward. And so we are getting it now.
Yes.
And, Kamala Harris. I'm just like, wowee.
Wow.
I didn't know. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know.
I was on pins and needles.
But I am excited.
I was on pins and needles. You know, one of those hope for the best, prepare for the worst type situations. Right. But you know what? Again, I gotta give a shout out to black men and women.
Well, you saw that list of black men, because the women that we stepped out there first and put that list together.
You know, as always,
but
black
they
women
came, because I saw some of them saying, you know, no, we're gonna go with if it's somebody else, if it's a different persuasion, that'll be okay, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna support no matter what. No, it's our turn.
It's our turn.
It's our turn, and it's our time.
Granted.
Taking us for granted.
Right.
And putting other women ahead of us.
And understand, black women will show up and show out for you.
We will clown for you too.
We will.
And so stop telling us that, you know, we're the second choice.
Right. Stop telling us that we can go out and get all the money into the community.
Right.
You know what I'm going
I know
to get.
Girl.
It was somebody else to, you know, say they found it, but you know.
You know what, Jamecka.
Maybe I have.
You've been on a roll since this weekend. Let me just say that she's been on a roll this weekend.
Saying.
It's like she's been waiting to say some things.
Just saying.
Well, you are, and you're saying it. And I think Kamala just made us want to just say all kind of stuff.
Yes,
we're gonna go do a happy dance and all kind of stuff.
Yep. We go.
I feel like fireworks are going off right now. I mean, they are going off right now. This is just. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I heard movement. I was like, But saw those thumbs.
I know it. I know. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. This is a history-making moment.
That was.
This is
we got to share it with you.
August 11th.
August 11th. August 11th, 2020.
Black woman has been chosen as the VP candidate of this
United States of America. It's history. It is.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I know. You know, our mothers and grandmothers and our ancestors fought for this. It's long
It's like
overdue.
that shirt says, "We are their wildest dream."
We are their wildest dream.
And for her to be selected, that is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And it does make you, they're tears of joy, in case you're wondering. Because it is. It's exciting.
It is so exciting.
It's exciting. And so I know we don't have a lot of time left, but there's some things we want to remind people. Because we come on Channel 17, but it's Wednesdays at 3 o'clock, right? 2.
We thought it was 3.
We thought it was 3.
It's
Wednesday 2 to 3. And then Saturday at 1 a.m.
At 1 a.m.
For people that are night owls, that like to stay up. I like late night TV.
Yeah.
So if you're a night owl, it's Saturday at 1 in the morning. And
if you want to catch us during the day, Wednesday at 2.
Okay. We just got the confirmation. Yes, it's
Wednesday
2 o'clock.
At 2 p.m. And it's on Channel 17.
Channel 17.
But you can also catch us on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Black Money Matters. And it'll be the Black Money Matters with the picture of us.
Is that that's what you do, the poll?
Yeah. And then you can catch us on our YouTube page, right?
And then I know we're going to be doing some more behind the scenes. We're not going to tell them what it is yet, because then it wouldn't be behind the scenes, would it?
And our behind the scenes are live.
Yes, they're live.
We do live.
So, and then we want to remind people to email us your thoughts, your ideas, suggestions, questions to blackmoneymatters2 at gmail.com.
We are so excited. You know what? What's today's date again?
It's August 11th.
Tuesday, August 11th. History has been made.
And it happened in the middle of the show.
And it happened in the middle of the show.
No,
so
well, look, it was closer to the end, which is a good thing, because
then we would have just.
I'd have been all messed up.
But you know what?
What?
Black money matters.
It matters.
Black women matter.
Black women
matter.
Black
votes matter.
That's right.
Black lives matter.
All of that.
And it's time.
It's time.
It is time.
It's time.
I'm so excited.
I am too.
I'm so excited.
I know.
You know what? And
I know it. I was. That's a good way to end, huh?
It is a good way, yes.
But
stay tuned for what we have in store.
And we're not going to let them, because next week you just have to tune in
you have to tune in
and see what we're talking about.
But stay tuned. We have some exciting stuff coming up, and we're really excited now. So you never know.
I know you don't know what we might do.
We're about to bring out.
And so that ends this week.
Congratulations,
Kamala
Vice President
Harris.
candidate.
That's right.
Yes.
And see you next week, same place, same time on Black Money Matters.